You realized you needed some help, that you needed some support, that you couldn't do it on your own anymore, that no matter how many times you tried, you couldn't beat the substance on your own, or no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't beat being addicted to the addict in your life. So, good for you. You reached out. You got some help. You started working and walking with other people. You might have even found a spiritual path in your life. And in the words of the great Dr. Seuss on the very first page of Oh, the Places You'll Go, I would say to you, congratulations. Congratulations. Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. But let's just be honest for just a moment, because it all comes with a bit of fear and uncertainty, doesn't it? It all comes with some fear and uncertainty, and I would ask you now, will you have the courage to be all in when it comes to your life? Will you have the courage to be all in? And listen, y'all, I do know what it's like to have the courage to be all in, and I know what the opposite is like. Do you know, growing up as a little boy, man, I loved basketball. I loved everything about basketball. I loved playing basketball. I had big hopes for my NBA career. I mean, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, loved basketball. And man, I hated the eighth grade. I hated eighth grade. My family, we moved from the St. Louis area to a small town in mid-Missouri called Lake of the Ozarks, and there was all kinds of small town politics. Like even in the middle school, friend groups were formed, the cliques were already set, the teams were already set. Man, I hated eighth grade. I was the new kid and I was bullied, I was picked on, I did not have any friends, I didn't have a sense of belonging, but I still had basketball. So I did the next right thing and I tried out for the eighth grade basketball team. And it never crossed my mind that I wouldn't make the eighth grade basketball team because I made the team all the previous years. Why wouldn't I make the eighth grade basketball team? And I walked into school that day and there was a piece of paper hanging from taped to one of the walls in the gym. And I go up to this paper and there's a list of names and my name wasn't on the list. And I just thought it was some sort of mistake. And the truth is, man, I was so devastated. It was like this shattered dream in my life. And do y'all know how I handled it? Well, I never picked up a basketball again. I didn't play basketball again. I didn't try out for the team. I didn't want to face the rejection. In fact, just in the last couple of years, my two little boys, 8 years old and 5 years old, they're into basketball, so I play basketball with them. But I did not try out for the team again. I totally gave up. I didn't want to face any more rejection. And at that time in my life, I got involved in other things like at theater and the church youth group where I became a leader, and I saw that God still had me. But still there's this thought in the back of my mind that who knows? I mean, if I would have had the courage to be all in, if I would have stayed with it, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't be a pastor today. Maybe I'd be playing for the Denver Nuggets. Who knows? The truth is, I know what it's like to give up. I know what it's like to throw in the towel, feeling so afraid of failing again. I mean, this was my whole deal with the drink. Trying so hard to put the drink down and making promises and then breaking those promises. And man, this was my life, and I didn't want to fail again. Who wants to do that? Will you have the courage to be all in when it comes to your life? Now, if you're a bit fuzzy on what courage is, well, the way I define it is courage is the thing that happens when you decide to keep engaging, even when it's hard, even when you fail, even when you're disappointed, even when giving up seems like a more viable option. And y'all, I do know what it's like to have the courage to be all in. In 2018, Tammy and I had the courage to be all in with this thing called Free. In 2018, that's when we started Free. We started in our backyard. We just opened up the backyard, and it was this amazing time in life. It was like this time filled with energy, and there was this nervous excitement, and we felt so like called in persuasive ways, so called by God to step into this thing. It was like everything was new again. And if you've ever started anything new, you'll feel me on this one. Like we just would open up the backyard that summer for anyone who wanted to have a conversation around God and spirituality and addiction and recovery. And it was for addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees. And man, for months, I would stand in my backyard an hour before the service, an hour before we started. And even when we got our location, I would stand there an hour before and I would say to myself, man, is anyone going to come tonight? I mean, what if no one shows up? I mean, I know people came last week, but what if people think it sucks? What if people don't come? And then people would come and you could start to breathe again. Do you know I had people around me, some voices that would say to me, man, Ryan, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, you're serving as a pastor in this church and things are going well and you know how to do this thing and it's comfortable. Are you sure you want to step into this new thing? I mean, there's no guarantee it's going to work. What if the whole thing falls apart? What if it never takes off? Some would say, Ryan, are you sure you want to just hang out with a bunch of addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees? And it's like, easy. Those are my people. I'm one of them. I had those voices in my life. The truth is I made some mistakes. I won't speak for Tammy because she's not here tonight. I'll just speak for me. I made some mistakes. Some mistakes were bigger than others. In my experience, the most costly mistakes you will make in your life, they will always involve people. They will involve relationships. They'll involve matters of the heart. One of my character defects is I can see a vision and I can know how to do it. I can know how to create it, and I just start running after that thing. But it's where that old meme is true, isn't it? Maybe you've seen it floating around on social media. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with other people. Man, I would see this thing and I could create it and I would just start running and I would leave people in the dust. I would forget about relationships. I would forget about communicating, and they would say, Ryan, this is a surprise to us, but it wasn't a surprise to me. I knew exactly what I was doing. I had to learn to bring others with me in the vision. I made mistakes of settling for mediocrity. Do you know when Free was growing in our backyard, we couldn't fit any more people, we started looking for space to lease, to do a monthly lease. And man, I thought God just dropped the biggest gift in our lap. Because we're driving one day just down the street from where we live, and I see the Grease Monkey, the oil change place, the Grease Monkey, and it had a for lease sign on it. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. We called the guy and he told us to come look at it. And it was so beautiful. It had a double bay garages, and I thought this is going to be perfect for summer. We'll put the garages open. It'll be great. We did some measuring, and I thought we can get at least 50 people in here, which was double of the backyard. The backyard was 25. We can get at least 50 in here. It had a dingy basement that smelled like oil, so I knew we'd have to burn some candles and incense. It had the holes in the ground where the oil changes happen, and I just thought we'll lay down some plywood so y'all don't fall through the floor, and it's going to be perfect. And the church where I was serving said, if you can raise a certain amount of money, we will sign a lease for you, because you can't sign it as an individual. And in about a week, we raised that amount of money, and we were in process with the Grease Monkey for 2 months. And the day before we went to sign the lease papers, he calls me and says, well, I'm sorry to say this, we have a change in plans and we no longer want a lease. We've got other plans for it. And man, it was one of those shattered dream moments. And I was so angry with God. God, why would you bring us all the way here just to take the Grease Monkey away from us? And where are we going to go? What are we going to do? And sometimes when it feels like everything is falling apart, God says, watch this. And something much bigger and better came along. And then we got into this space. And y'all, what I know is if you decide to take a new path in your life, if you decide to step onto a new path, you're going to get your butt kicked a little bit. It's the way it is. There will always be those in the stands who say, don't do this. Man, don't do this. You don't even know if it's going to work. Why would you want to leave your comfort zone? And if you do that, then it makes me insecure and brings up all my insecurities. Don't leave me. Don't do this. You're not cut out for it. But oh, the places you'll go if you stay engaged. And see, what I know is when you are living a life that is all in, you are going to fail. There will be moments where you are disappointed. You'll have moments of serious defeat. There will be moments where you fall flat on your face and you experience pain. But if you stay engaged, if you decide that you are going to be all in when it comes to your life, you will also encounter moments of profound joy and overcoming and gratitude. And see, sometimes what happens is we get stuck in these stories in our head up here, these stories of defeat, and they just keep playing. And it's why we need those collective stories to come along and help us spin new stories, to stay engaged in the new. And so I want to share a story with you tonight. It's an ancient story. It's a story about a man named Abram. And Abram is invited by God to step into this new thing in the midst of all the fear and all the unknowing. And this story comes from the very first book of what's called the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 12. See if this is your story. See if this is our story. It goes like this. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great." And don't miss this part, "so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and all the peoples on the earth will be blessed through you." And let's pause for just a moment, because you have to understand how big this invitation is. That when Abram heard this, he had to be filled with all kinds of fear and uncertainty. Because in that time and in that day, they lived in what's called a cyclical view of the world. And without going too much into history and scholarship, you can simply think of it this way. Abram, your parents worked this land. Your parents' parents worked this land. Your parents' parents' parents worked this land. Dude, you ain't going anywhere. You're staying put. Your life is already set for you. Do you hear how big this invitation is? Abram, I want you to leave everything you know and step into this new thing. No, God, that's not the way it's done. And the truth is, some of you have been living in that cyclical view of the world, believing that your life has already been set for you. Maybe you come from a long line of addiction. It just runs rampant throughout your family history, and somewhere along the way you bought into the lie of, this is just the way it is. They did it. This is my life. This is the thing that was handed to me, and this is the way things are going to be. And throughout the story, if you were to read all of Genesis, Abram's story, who was later called Abraham, you would see that God was consistently and constantly reminding Abram, I know you're afraid, I know it's scary, but wherever you go, every step you take, I am going with you. And Abram, this isn't just about you. You are called to bless, to love other people. I mean, do you notice what God doesn't say in the story? God does not say, Abram, I want to make your name so great so that you can have a bloated ego and let everyone know how great you are. No, this is about you going to all the other tribes and peoples and nations, not just people like you, but all people, to love and to bless them. But to get there, Abram, you are going to have to leave everything you know. You're going to have to leave it behind. And see, maybe you were invited into a new thing, a new path. But somewhere along the way, you just got it all twisted, because it happens. Maybe you stepped onto the path of recovery, and you thought recovery was just about you and your healing. And you had to learn that it's actually also about you giving the gift back to other people, that it's about their healing too. Maybe you started a new company, a new business, a new organization, a new project. And you thought it was just about how great you were. And somewhere along the way, you had to make a shift and say, no, this is about making other people great. And maybe you stepped, for the first time in your life, you stepped into a spiritual path, and you thought that spiritual path was all about you and what you could get out of it. And you had to shift to say, no, it's not just about me. It's about serving other people. And see, the truth is, you can step onto that new path and make it all about you. You can even become outwardly successful. You can become rich with money, but be very careful, because somewhere along the way you might find yourself spiritually and morally bankrupt. if it is only about you, well, I'm sorry to say that is not a blessing. That might indeed be one of the greatest curses. And one more word of warning, because see, if you want to get to the sweet spot, you are going to have to leave the familiar behind. You're going to have to step all the way out of the old and into the new. Do you know, for so long when I was trying to get sober, when I couldn't put down a drink, I thought the solution of my problem was I just need more knowledge. Then I can beat this thing. If I can just read more books about addiction, then I'll get it. If I can just read more books about God, then I'll get it. And I was a pastor teaching about God, and I thought I knew God. And it was like finally God came along and said, Ryan, if you want to step into the new, you are going to have to leave. You're going to have to forget everything you thought you knew about me, everything you thought you knew about the spiritual journey. You're going to have to step into the new and leave all the old behind. And I'm telling y'all, allowing an old God to crumble and old ideas and old ways to crumble, it was the scariest time in my life. The new thing will always be scary. It will always come with a bit of fear and unknowing. But let's finish the story about Abram. There's only one verse left. It's verse 4, and it's only 3 words, and it's some of my favorite words in Scripture. It's one of my very favorite verses. So Abram went. Abram had the courage to be all in when it came to his life. He stepped out of the old and into the new, and if you read the rest of chapter 12, you'll see that Abram made some big mistakes. He had moments of failure. The journey wasn't always easy for him. In fact, early on in the journey, he experiences a famine in the land. They're hungry. Early in the journey, he tells a big lie about his wife for his own personal gain. Early in the journey, not everyone liked him, and he was actually kicked out of a country. And this is all, by the way, just in chapter 12, not even the full story. And I highlight this to remind you, just because you accepted God's invitation, just because you stepped into the new and maybe you got clean and sober, don't expect the journey to always be easy. Don't expect things in your life to always move up and to the right. Congratulations, but now you get to keep going. And I want to close with a sort of blessing. You know, on last Sunday night, we had a Super Bowl party here. And I couldn't sleep that night after the Super Bowl. And it had nothing to do with the Super Bowl, by the way. But it had everything to do with my mind playing tricks on me. Because what I did that night is I had a nitro coffee in the cafe. I actually had 2 of them that night. Because my mind said to me, Ryan, I know you're 42 years old and you don't do caffeine at night. It's going to be different this time. I'm Ryan and I'm an alcoholic, right? It's going to be different this time. You can handle it. Why is it going to be different? Well, it's the Super Bowl. You can handle it. There's a lot of energy. Well, I couldn't go to sleep that night. I laid in bed and tossed and turned. In fact, I didn't fall asleep until 4 o'clock that morning. It's going to be different. And you know how we do when we can't fall asleep, or at least I do this. I'll sit and toss and turn, and I'll work out everything I have to get done the next day, or maybe even that week. Everything I need to get done. Y'all ever do this? Yeah, I was so impressed with myself. I made it not just through the next day and the next week, but I made it all the way through July. Yeah. See, in July, I'll be flying, me and Selah, my 14-year-old daughter, we're going to fly out to Durham, North Carolina. Hello, Christy and Jen. Y'all don't know about this, but I'll tell you about it now. We'll be flying out to North Carolina. I've been invited by a church to come preach on that Sunday morning, and they want to know more about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. And then later that afternoon, they're hosting a panel discussion with some Duke professors, and I'll be sitting on that panel. They want to know more about what we do here at Free. And I started thinking about 3 o'clock in the morning last Sunday when I couldn't sleep, man, what would I tell them about my people? What should I say about you all? What do I tell them? And here's what I think I'm going to tell them. That you people, my people, us, we're just a bunch of little Abrams constantly being invited by God. And I've had the great honor in this community of watching you step out of old cycles and travel into a new land. I've had the great privilege of watching you leave the familiar. And you could have stayed. I mean, even when it comes to your addiction, you could have stayed. It was familiar, maybe not all the way comfortable, but you knew how to do it, but you also knew it wasn't serving you any longer. Maybe somewhere along the way you thought God has bigger plans. I think I'm going to tell them that I've watched many of you struggle with, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Can I really do this thing called recovery? And I'm going to tell them that we have constantly reminded each other that what God created is good. And you are God's creation, meaning you are fundamentally good from the beginning. And I will tell them that we constantly remind each other that God doesn't do shame and we don't do shame. Now, is life always easy in this new land of recovery? Hell no, it's not. We are just like Abram. We encounter struggles of all kinds, a famine of the soul. Now, is life always perfect in this new land of recovery? Hell no. No, we're just like Abram. We make mistakes along the way. Sometimes they're big mistakes. Sometimes we hurt ourselves. Sometimes we hurt other people, and we have to make things right. But you have stepped out of the old and into the new, and in this new land of recovery, we've experienced some big blows, haven't we? I mean, we've watched people that we love go out and relapse. We've seen death and overdoses of all kinds. We've seen this fentanyl crisis take far too many young people, people that we love. And do you know, just this week, I was sitting with a grieving mother in my office. They just lost their boy to a fentanyl overdose. And she says, we're going to do the service here in a couple weeks. She says, Ryan, could you, when you're giving your message, could you talk about that scripture? I don't know where it is, but it says something about, I have called you by name, you are mine. And I said, well, that's Isaiah 43. She didn't know. She had no clue this scripture means a great deal to me. In fact, I have it tattooed on my arm just below this cross. Me and my brother got Isaiah 43 tattooed there 3 weeks before he was killed in a car accident due to this brutal disease of addiction. And do you know what Isaiah 43 says? Isaiah 43 says, when you go through the waters, you will not drown. When you go through the fire, you will not be burned. And his body, my brother's body, was burned beyond recognition in that accident. And no matter where you go, I am going with you. I have called you by name. You are mine. And if you're here tonight, if you're sitting here, if you're online, that means you stayed. You didn't give up. You didn't go back, because we know on this journey that we are not alone, that we are sustained by a power greater than us. And my friend Matt, you know, he often says that we here at Free, we're like the triage unit, that we are dealing with the most sick, the most suffering, the most bleeding, and I think he's right. And I want to tell them that I've seen you, my people, this community, time and time again show up for the most suffering and to care for them and to assist in their healing. I have watched many of you gather just outside these doors in the cafe on Saturday nights before this service or after this service or even throughout the week, and you are there for the most hurting. And isn't it something? Many faith communities run from suffering. We just want to throw our hands in the air and praise Jesus and happy clappy, but you keep running right towards the suffering. Why? Well, because you've been there. You've been at the very bottom. You know what it's like because you accepted God's invitation. You received the blessing, and you know it's not only about you. You know that you show up to be a blessing for others. Why? Because you've been given way too much to just keep it all to yourself. So you give it away to others. And you are like that constant voice for the suffering world that is this constant reminder of it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. Life can be better than it is right now, but you do have to take the first step. And I think I'll tell them that my people, many of us in this space, we have big questions and big doubts, that we've been burned by religion. And we wanted to throw in a towel. We wanted to give up, but something deep within told us not to give up on the God idea. And the truth is, we keep finding God or higher power in the questions, in the doubts, because I think we actually believe that God is big enough to handle our biggest questions and our biggest doubts. And I think I'll tell them that my people, all of us here in this space, and if you're watching tonight or throughout the week, all of us watching in this space, we know hurt. We know desperation. We know pain. But today, is it true? We are a lot more free. So Free Recovery Community went. And can you imagine the places you'll go if you have the courage to be all in, if you keep going? So what we're going to do now is hear a little song. I love this song. It's called A Lot More Free by Max McNown. And if you're here tonight and you maybe you're embarking on a new journey. Maybe it's as simple as a new journey of a mindset. Maybe you're starting a new thing. Maybe you're new in recovery. If you're during the song, if you want to come up, well, we have oil. And if you want to come up and just receive a little blessing on your hand, just a reminder to keep going, a reminder to step into the new, a reminder to leave the old behind, a reminder that God's got you. If you're on any sort of new journey, I would welcome you. You certainly don't have to. You can sit and reflect. Just hear this beautiful song. But if you want a blessing during this song, well, now's your time. It's almost like we planned it that way. Had anyone ever heard that song before? Oh, so good, isn't it? Dang. All right, y'all. Well, if it's your first time with us tonight, you should know that every Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house to share their experience, strength, and hope with us. And tonight, I can't wait for you to meet Jose. I know many of you know Jose. Let me just tell you a little story about Jose. We've got a new friendship going. Jose is new in recovery, just over 3 months clean and sober. He's going to share some of that story. But, man, I've been seeing him floating around free over these past 3 months. And he's always polite, always smiling. And there's this, I think we call it a sparkle in the eye. There's something new going on in his life. And Jose is also, he's in the midst of a battle right now to get custody of his son. And before I bring him up here to share that story with us, well, I want you to just check out this little 10-second video of him with his son.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Dear God, thank you for the food we're about to eat. In Jesus' name, amen. Say amen.
It's me, Mickey Mouse.
Amen.
You want to come inside my clubhouse?
Teaching your son how to pray, man. That's a beautiful thing. Help me welcome Jose up to the living room. All right, José Cruz, ladies and gentlemen. And Jose, let's start here, dude. So November 4th, 2024, you've been clean and sober. So you're just over 3 months. And Jose was born in Cleveland, born and raised in the projects of Cleveland, surrounded by addiction. I know your parents had you at a young age. They were only 14 years old when they had you, but they battled with this thing of addiction. And it took a lot from them. It took a lot from you. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, just being a kid at that time.
My childhood was good. We were, even though I was born and raised in the projects in Cleveland, we did, I didn't look at it like I know I'm poor. Like our house was, it was like 15 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment. It was a lot of love. My grandmother, my aunts, and our cousins. Mom and dad had me young, but they did a really good job, especially at that age. They were kids, they were kids themselves, instilling a lot of morals and values and things that I have today in my life, thanks to my mom and dad. But yeah, it became, later on, my mom, she's still alive, and even though she had her struggles and ultimately was a victim of a crime, which led her to be in a wheelchair. She's one of my biggest supporters in my life today, and she's very strong. And
is she watching tonight?
I hope so. If not, she'll
Hi,
eventually
Mom, if you're
watch.
watching, we're glad
I love
you're
you,
here.
Mom.
Or maybe it's that camera.
She's an amazing woman, and she's one of my biggest supporters. My dad, God rest his soul, ended up, dying. He ended up ODing in my grandmother's bathroom at 46, his mom's bathroom. And it was tough. Life was kind of tough.
And you're about to turn 46.
I'm going to be 46 this year in May, and it's
that
significant.
brings up some stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's significant. My brother's like, well, I mean, but maybe it's because I'm the first, I'm the oldest, so I always hit everything before he does. But it's a good chance because now I can reflect and see how breaking the cycle, because like you said earlier, we always thought. I always thought I was a product of my environment. Well, this is the way it is. In Cleveland, Puerto Rican hood, where, hey, even though my family, they're all, we were really tight. Both sides of my family are like one big family, and where there's a lot of good stuff there. But like I never seen nothing like recovery or, so stepping outside of the unknown, just stepping outside and trying this way of life. So
how old were you when you started using?
Oh, I was young. I want to say my, 10, smoking weed, and then like the hard stuff around 13, mixing little stuff with the weed, and then, trying to hide it. But unfortunately, something as addicting as crack, you can't really hide for too long.
So in 2014, you moved out here to Colorado, You had a son that was born in 2021. Just tell us a little bit about how you got out here. Tell us a little bit about your son.
So I was married at the time. I was married and divorced twice in 12 years. The second time was when I got divorced out here. Moved to Colorado for my ex-wife's job. She worked for United, and when they closed the hub in Ohio and Cleveland, they offered a position out here, and that relationship was damaged throughout the years. So we went through a divorce, and she like packed up overnight and fled with my children. And that's slowly coming back. But yeah, I took it hard and went to the hood, Colfax, and I never looked back. And that, I was trying to mask the pain and of losing my kids. But I ended up conceiving my son. Me and my kid's mom were never together. We just, the lifestyle, partied, and next thing you know, she's like, I'm pregnant. But she had a person she was with that raised the other two, and I got arrested and called. Ironically enough, I picked up the phone after 3 months in jail and just dialed her number. And she's like, I just had the baby. She had him I called on the day he was born. She had him in a hotel lobby on the floor, and he was addicted to fentanyl. And she named him Red because the hotel was owned by the Red Roof Inn.
So are there any effects? What are the effects of being born addicted to fentanyl? How does that
I know
work?
I know that from what I saw, the NICU 2 weeks. But my son, you can't really tell. My son is so smart. He's aware. He's got a great personality. He's healthy, and all thanks to God. Thank God that my son is blessed. To be able to be there. But there's a lot of horrible effects that can go. Fortunately, I haven't really seen any of the effects on my son. He's as bright as can be, but
And he's 4 years old now.
yeah, he's 4.
My kids hate it when I say this to them now because they're all past 4.
Yeah.
4 was always my favorite age. With
Yeah.
every one of them, 4 was that age where they're actually becoming people, and you
Yeah.
can have an emotional connection with them. And dude, it's such a fun age. You got to eat this time up. But okay, so that was 2014, and you just got sober, clean and sober, just over 3 months ago. How'd that happen?
I came home looking for my son and became I found him and became a part of the case. Him and his brother and sister, who are not mine naturally, were about to get adopted because of mom and the way she had my son, and CPS took him, and so I became a part of the case, and it's been an ongoing battle. Unfortunately, at one point, I did lose hope because the system is very hard to navigate. It's a lot of things don't happen in our favor, especially coming from where we come from, like the trenches, so to speak, or active addiction and getting clean, and it can be very discouraging. And so this time around, I managed through the grace of God. My higher power is God, who I call Jesus, God, and that's my faith has helped me tremendously because there's no way I could have got out of addiction just by myself, and just through the connection. The opposite of addiction is connection through people in the program, and my faith. But anyways, I managed that pain of losing my kids the first time. I didn't want to experience that pain again, and I had already developed a relationship with Red when I came in the picture. So that was a big motivating factor for me.
So tell people, just share a little bit about what have you been doing the last 3 months to stay connected, to stay in recovery? How do you do that?
So what it looked like for me was stepping outside of the box, doing something that was totally different, jumping in the middle of the boat. I kept hearing it. People used to say 90 and 90. I thought 90 and 90, that's for people who actually need it.
What does 90-90 mean?
90 meetings in 90 days. I would go to sober living, and I would go to a couple meetings and see a couple people. Hey, what's up? But I never really dove in the middle of the boat and hit meetings and got vulnerable in meetings and opening up and sharing, and I catch the bus everywhere. I do this a lot of people say. I do this I did the streets, and when I wanted to get whatever I needed to get in the streets, I did whatever it took. And so now I catch the bus here. It's snowing, but guess what? I got a commitment. This is the things that keep me clean and sober. Service and being a part of people's lives, and people being a part of my lives, and it's been I can't explain because there's been a lot of tough times, navigating the system on my own without a lawyer. There's a lot of times where they don't care. that I'm so, that what seems like it. We don't care. We got this motion. It's a process. I want my son now. I got a place for his own room. I just set up his own room. He's got a nice little room, and through, just getting like little stuff from people, and I got his
Can I
bed.
tell him? Jose and I met in my office this last week, and he said that today he has the ability to weather the storm differently than he did before. That means without drugs and booze and everything else we put in our body, and he can weather it differently. And do you know what he said to me when he came in tonight? I said, Jose, I know you were dealing with the courts this week. Did you get any news? And he said, man, I just have to let it go. I have to trust the process and hand this thing over to God because it's too big and I don't want it to get me off path. And dude, that's how recovery works. We get to deal with those situations differently today. And he's here. He's connected. He's connected to his recovery. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, man, that you could say that tonight. That's like living proof of it working in your life. And tell us, what are some of the fears that you're stepping into today, where you used to just mask it or numb it out and not deal with it? You're stepping into those fears. What are some of those fears?
Some of the fears are realizing, sometimes I feel I deal with guilt, about had I not got high, this and that, I wouldn't be in this situation, and I had to forgive myself. A lot of it is fear that somebody's going to, the foster people who have a lot of kids, they just hired a lawyer, and, they granted them a motion to intervene. And a lot of that's scary because, like, the thought of my son being raised by people other than me or his mom, if she's doing good, but unfortunately she's in her own struggle, is terrifying, the fact, or just thinking like, hey, this is going to be too, or if I make a mistake. So I said, you know what? I'm focusing on the wrong thing. I can't change the core. I can't do nothing but just work on the inside, work on what I got going on with me and with God and with the fellowship. And so as long as I stay clean and sober, and as long as I put my faith in God, and that's because it got too much. It was getting too much. I'm sitting here trying to be this lawyer and think about what documents I need to counters, and it's not working because they're professionals. They know what they're doing. Me, it gets discouraging because, if they granted that motion, and I'm like, you know what? I know I'm his dad. I know if I stay clean and sober and I just work on me, eventually it'll happen, And so, it's just navigating those fears, trusting the process, and, realizing that even in recovery, life is going to show up. The only thing is I don't have to numb the pain. Yeah. I don't have to go and try to self-medicate or get high over the things that are happening, because I'm not unique. This is happening to a lot of people. A lot of people are going through life on life's terms right now.
Yeah, and you get to feel today, and that's a big deal. It's hard, though, sometimes, isn't it?
It's good and bad. I love it. Hey, we're all at functions. We're all in curriculum, and all the conventions and functions and fellowship, and I love it. But then we also got to feel the disappointments and face the things that we got to face, as we're picking up the pieces, But I get to do it clean. I got people here, I got a community of people that I could tap into and get vulnerable and even if I gotta cry, I used to be, I'm from Cleveland. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm from the, I've been in the joint. Yeah, we don't. But the truth is, I'm healing today, and it's okay. And I'm gonna teach my son that too, that it's okay to express his feelings and be, get vulnerable, and it's gonna be okay.
When Carrie and I were talking about this series, I told her for tonight, I said, man, for this one, I want someone, a guest storyteller, I want them to be new in recovery. Someone that's living proof that even when you're new in recovery, you can walk through the hard, you can feel, you can surround yourself with community, you can rely on God. Those are beautiful things that you're doing, man, and continued prayers for you too. Your son, I know, is in custody of the state right now, right? Mm-hmm. Prayers that you get to be a dad to your son full time. That'll be a beautiful thing. But when it happens, you got to get a video of it, and we'll show the video of it.
He's going to be around. My son will be around. Everywhere I go, he's going to be right there with Papi,
Oh, is that what he calls you, Papi?
Yeah, well, Dad. But okay. He knows what Papi means because I'm teaching him Spanish too. But
because my kids call me Papi is why I was asking.
Yeah, and that means dad in Spanish. But he's learning. He knows how to count in Spanish. And, one thing at a time. I'm just being okay with not being okay right now, and because I know it's going to be okay.
Well, bring them here, man. We got to meet Red. We want to meet Red. All right, in closing, Jose, What do you say to someone who's here tonight, or maybe they're tuning in online tonight? They're joining in throughout the week maybe, and they're the ones that they're sitting in their living room, or they're laying in bed maybe watching you speak, and they're barely hanging on. They're saying, man, you don't know where I've come from. You don't know what I've been through. And yeah, it's easy to talk about stepping onto a new path, but you don't know what's happened. What do you say to them?
Get connected. Get connected. For me, it was connection. A lot of people have different beliefs and different ways of getting clean and sober. Mine happens to be through the Lord and through God. But I think we all can get connected in some way that's going to help us. My connections with the fellowship and with my my faith, and just get connected, get vulnerable, get in the middle of the boat, just come around, let people know who you are, so people can reach out. Once I got to, people started to really know Jose, and they're more willing to help. Hey, you know what? This guy's really putting in the effort. Come on, a lot of people here who's giving me rides and who's just been there to talk to, put me in service. Early in recovery, just threw me a shirt. Come on, help me. But yeah, just get in the middle of the boat, trust the process, and just give it a try. You can always go back to we can always go back to the stuff we know.
Yeah.
The streets. That's always going to be there. You know what I mean? Give it a try 100% and just see how it works.
Yeah.
That's what I did, and I don't regret it one bit.
Go all in.
All in, like you said.
Beautiful thing, man. Thank you for being with us tonight, Jose, both services, and thank you for being a part of this community. And Jose Cruz, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for him. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man. You're a good dude. All right, well, the way we close things down on a Saturday night is with very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with what we call heartaches. Maybe you've been carrying around a burden this week, and you've been trying to carry it alone, and the truth is you're not fit to carry it alone. You suck at carrying these heavy things alone, and you don't have to. You have community. We have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if you're carrying a burden tonight, you'd like some prayer, some encouragement, some uplifting, I encourage you to grab the mic. Tara has a mic on this side. Darren has a mic on this side. Just raise up your hand. They'll get it to you. And by the way, if you're online, if you're joining us online, drop your heartaches in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, wherever you're joining us from, whatever platform you're on. We'll join with you and heartache with you there. So let's take 3 minutes, and this time is yours.
Yeah, this is Cy. I had the amazing opportunity to foster a dog for the last couple of weeks, Apollo, and his mom got out of rehab. I was fostering him while his mom got help, and I was supposed to meet with her to reunite them this last Thursday, and nobody's heard from her. And so I just want to say some prayers for Apollo and his mom. I just hope it was a miscommunication and that she comes back just an amazing dog, and that she gets her dog back.
Yeah. All right. Lifting up Apollo. His mom. Yeah. Thank you, Cy.
My name's Jack. I want to have a request for a specific family, specifically a mother, to my best friend. My best friend took his life back in 23, and in that same year, the mother lost her brother and her father. And in January, her husband passed away of cancer, and on the Tuesday after his funeral, her brother had a heart attack. And so she's been left, she has nothing but she has her daughters left, and there's no other men in her life, and I can't imagine how confusing something like that is for her. She's stressed out as can be, overwhelmed, trying to take over her husband's business, and she's just been in my thoughts constantly, and I want to kind of raise her up in this moment.
All right, we're going to lift her up tonight as a community. Prayers for her. Thank you for mentioning her. A lot of grief.
Hi, I'm Mel. I wanted to send out a couple of prayers. I live in Sobriety House, and one of our clients, his name was Dedrick. He passed away a few days ago, and not sure what the causes are because of HIPAA, but his birthday was yesterday as well, so prayers with his mother and all of his children. He's very young. And also today I was driving around a gentleman, sweet man. His 68-year-old sister slipped and fell in her bathroom and hit her head in just the right, or her neck rather, where she's a quadriplegic now. So her life changed literally in an instant, and just the sweetest family. So prayers for her healing, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. Lifting up both those families and the ones affected. Yeah, if you click it up. Tara.
Hi, I'm Cody. I just want to send a quick prayer out to my roommate. We're actually separating as roommates because he can't put down the drink, but let's just all give him a prayer and hope he can one day.
Yeah, there's a way out, man. Yeah, prayers for him.
I wanted to ask for prayers for a family member who lost a family member to an overdose. He was 19 years old. We had the opportunity to go pay our respects, and it was an open casket, and it was the first time that I had to witness somebody that young.
Yeah.
And to have it be like the silent killer that just keeps coming through and stealing our youth is quite the experience. So prayers out to his family, and especially like his dad and all of what goes with being a parent inside that. So.
Yeah, thank you for that, Talisha, and prayers for the family and all who love them. And yeah, we don't want to sound dark and morbid here, but the truth is, this community, we hear of overdoses and death of young people just far too often, and it's one of the reasons this community exists. It's why we talk about it. I know it's a dark place, but again, y'all run towards that suffering because we know the light. So continued prayers for everyone affected. Thank you, Darren and Tara. Well, listen, if you have been impacted by our mission here of breaking the silence, we got our online people. We should join with them. It's not on. I don't have this screen. Darren, you can join with me up here.
Yeah, first we have Monica asking for prayers for my cat, and we have been at the vet hospital and still having to wait for more answers. Prayers for you and your cat, Monica.
All right, Monica, lifting you up. Ray says, sorry we couldn't be there, Jose, but we're all at home sick. Pray for us, please. All right, Ray, we're praying for you tonight and everyone in the house. We're glad you're joining us.
Aguila Lord, Eric in Florida, feeling overwhelmed, trying to balance starting treatment, moving states, handling the courts after a DUI, and keeping income going in the middle of these transitions. One step at a time, my friend, one step at a time. Praying for you and that you find the next step.
Yeah, Eric, glad you're joining us tonight. Glad you're part of this community, man. All right, thank you, Darren. Sometimes I just get in such a hurry, I run forward too fast. But if you have been impacted by our mission of breaking the silence of addiction, well, we love for you to know that we are funded by you, the people, and so your giving here means a great deal to us. It is truly one of the things that keeps us going. Without your giving, the truth is we don't exist. And man, I say it every week, thank you for those who have made this giving a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life. And really, and I mean this, even if you don't give here at Free, practice giving somewhere. Pick a place, a people, or whatever it is, and give, because you don't have everything just to keep it all to yourself. Giving changes us. So, but if you want to give here free, we're very grateful, and there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community. All our content is on there. Messages, guest storytellers are on there. There's a giving button. You can give one time, or you can set it up to be recurring and give weekly or monthly, however you want to do it. We're grateful for all of it. You can do the same thing at the website, freerecoverycommunity.com, and we have a giving kiosk. One, it cleverly says giving just beside these doors, and number two, there's one just outside these doors. And I have to break to y'all some very sad news this evening. I got an email this week from Dip Jar. You know Dip Jar, I talk about it every week. You dip your card in and dip out. I got an email from them. They are closing down operations, and it was effective immediately. So they said, unplug your Dip Jar. You cannot use it. So the Dip Jar is no more. I know it was so fun to dip in and watch the thing light up. Someone's, I won't tell you what, someone's a last service, but it was funny. Anyway, we are looking for another solution, a fun solution to put out there. And so just stay tuned for it. But these are the ways to give for now. Thank you for your giving. It means a great deal to us. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah, if you would just want to open up the hands. Yeah, just a simple sign of openness. Man, open up your whole body. Just take a big, deep breath. Maybe tonight you're open to a new path, a new way. Maybe tonight you need the openness to leave some things behind, some old ways behind, and to step all the way into the new, to go all in. If you don't know the Serenity Prayer, well, it'll be on your screen and we'll pray it together. It goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, and grace and peace to you. See you next time. Drive safe out there.